time. All right, let's bring him in. We're joined now by the editor-in-chief of The Hill. The great Bob Cusack is with us. We have Republican strategist Melik Abdul, Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha as well. So welcome all. I guess, Bob, you're the man in the middle on this, not technically, but politically. So let me start with you. Pick up on what Leland's talking about and what impacts a race like this in the last 4 days. What do you think the focus is for these few undecideds that are left?
You know, listen, I think both candidates would be wise to have a positive last message, you know, instead of attacking each other. Of course, they're going to attack each other. They're going to take advantage of when a surrogate says something dumb. We've seen that in recent days. But at the same time, I think every speech matters right now. This thing is so close. And I think if you end up with a positive, looking forward message, you're going to get a lot of that independent vote that went to Biden in 2020. That was a deciding factor. After he became president, he lost those independents, and now we're trying to figure out where they're going to go.
And the question is, and every campaign has a spin at the end, so you don't know what to make of it. The current Harris spin, I'll go to you on this, Chuck, is that those late deciders, like David Plouffe, who worked for Obama, who's now for Harris, has been saying this, they like where they are. They put out these memos. He's made comments on social media. Late deciders are for us. So is that women? What are you seeing in some of the early vote that you like from the Democratic side, Chuck?
Well, as we look through the numbers of who's voting, and what I've been looking at is how much of the vote that's come in early normally votes on Election Day, because Donald Trump has done a better job at getting his folks to show up early and to vote by mail, which is skewing some of the early vote numbers. I'm also looking at who are voters, this is their first time to vote. Yeah. And I think what David Plouffe, who's a dear friend of mine who I've worked with for now 20 years, is looking at is those folks who they have self-identified. If you pull back the curtain of campaign strategy, you know who are the undecided voters. And in most of the Senate races that we're working in with my firm or congressional races, it's non-college educated women. Why do I say that? Because college educated white women are overwhelmingly voting for Harris, but this non-college educated white women is really an undecided voter, especially if they're under 40.
A lot of times they lean Republican, right? Though they have in the past.
Absolutely, so, they do.
The question is whether Trump's hurting himself late in the game, Melik, with some of those voters, with some of these comments, whether it's Liz Cheney or something else that's getting a lot of coverage. What do you think?
I don't think with this particular case, I think what media are doing, obviously they're amplifying this, but they're, I would say, probably argue much worse things that Donald Trump had actually said. So some of the criticism of Donald Trump, some things are already built into the cake, baked into the cake. So when he's talking about this, it's clear, and I'm glad you actually played his remarks, it was clear in what Donald Trump was saying. It's a bit murkier when you're talking about what Joe Biden said or what or Mark Cuban said, or even what at the start of the week, many people were saying about Trump voters being, you know, comparing them to Nazis. So I don't think this particular thing that Donald Trump said is something that will actually sway a voter one way or the other, you know, but we still have 4 days to go. And Donald Trump, as we know, and what has been suggested here, this is about Donald Trump and whether or not you need to hold your nose and vote for Kamala Harris simply because you can't stomach voting for Donald Trump.
Okay, so let's talk about that phenomenon, because I think you're right, Melik, about that. And you say it as a Republican, that if you just think about it logically, right, just a regular person, you say, well, what would make someone undecided at this point? And are they really undecided, Bob, or just persuadable? And when they look at it, maybe they're leaning towards Trump. But what I was saying to Leland a few minutes ago, the risk for Trump, I think, in many ways, is that they, at the end of the day, they kind of take a deep breath and say, man, I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore. And if Trump can't get those people, then he loses. If they look at it and say, all right, well, you know what? He's better for my life and my family's life, no matter what he says, or, you know, I have questions about the way he conducts himself and his character, but, you know, I agree with him on the policy, then he probably wins. And that's the kind of the late decider. How do you see it, Bob?
Yeah, I was actually in Nevada and Las Vegas, and I was asking a cab driver who's going to win, who are you going to vote for?
Which is a good thing to do, by the way.
He doesn't know who's going to win. The what?
It's usually a smart idea. They usually know.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, no, and it's so close. And I think a lot of these undecided, like that cab driver, he doesn't like either one of them. So you don't want to be the one who makes a big mistake. I do think that it would be wise for Trump to use Nikki Haley on the campaign trail. We have not seen her. She appeals to independents. But I do think that you've got to make the case down the stretch, uplifting message, looking forward, not backward, what you're going to do. And then maybe these independents are picking basically the ones that they like a little bit better, but they don't like either one of them.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.